Welcome to Built by Us, the podcast where we spotlight the dreamers, doers, and disruptors shaping the future of our communities. I'm your host, Jamie Arroyo, CEO of Assets. Today, I'm joined by Champagne Domingo, founder of Una Vision Childcare, Lancaster's first Spanish immersion early education center. What Champagne has built is more than a childcare center. It's a cultural movement that empowers bilingualism, embraces identity, and gives families access to something truly transformational. From humble beginnings to unstoppable impact, her story is one of resilience, vision, and the power of believing in what your community really needs. So the superhero origin story is Bruce Wayne before he became Batman. So who were you before you became an entrepreneur? Like, what was your journey growing up that led you to become the business person that you are today?
I will have to say, like, my mother and my grandmother. You know, me and my mother talk about it all the time. Like, I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. Even, probably till after I won the pitch. All I knew was like just trying to make a way and trying to do it. And my grandmother, since I could remember being a little girl, like, you know, she was selling Avon and Popular Club and had her book and would go to people's houses. And this is before there was credit cards and store credits. Like, they had layaway. And, you know, seeing her do that. And then my mom becoming a realtor. And I didn't know that was entrepreneurship. I just thought it was, you know, working and making it and trying to figure it out. So I think that that's always been me. Like, that's all I've ever known is, you know, my mom kind of always wanted to instill in me that she never wanted me to punch a clock, but I didn't know that meant you're going to be an entrepreneur. That just means you have to figure it out and find a way and see what works. We've done a little bit of everything. We flipped houses. We've done parties. So here we are. It's like I said, it's nothing that I ever thought or envisioned for myself. It was just really listening to that voice of God and being like, this is my purpose. And even then, that was hard because I never was like, I want to grow up and be a teacher. I want to, you know, have a daycare. We were open 3 months before I ever held a baby. Like, never changed a diaper until I was in Una Vision. So I feel like God gives us all a purpose. It's like, how much do we really listen to? And it's not easy. But it's not easy at all. But just living and walking in that faith. And I can't sit up here and act like I'm just, you know, this perfect person or this saint or I'm in church every Sunday. That's not it. Everybody's walk with God is different. But it's just listening and being teachable. You know, He's surrounded me with a lot of people that have helped me get to this point. But yeah.
Yeah. Why childcare? Have you always been in childcare or education?
I said it in the pitch, God does not, you know, call the qualified. He qualifies the call. And that is literally my story. I'm my mother's only child. My father has other kids, but they're all on the East Coast, a lot younger than me. I have 3 first cousins. So it wasn't like I was raised in this big family that I had a bunch of, you know, cousins and little cousins growing up. That wasn't the case either. It was literally something that God put on, and I'm not even going to say on my heart. He put it on my mom's heart first. We had the building on West King, which is our current location, and it was a 2-unit apartment building, and she just had a dream and woke up and was like, looked to kind of see what it was zoned as, and it was mixed use. And she's like, all right, we're going to do a business. We're going to do a business. And she researched it, and I think the top 3 recession-proof businesses were like childcare, funeral home, and nursing home. All right, I guess it's childcare. Like, that's literally how we discovered it was going to be childcare. And that's how, you know, Una Vision came into fruition. We started off and we were Maryland Childcare. I partnered with someone that was supposed to kind of teach me the ropes. And again, what God has for you is for you, and He's going to move everyone and everything out the way if you're faithful. And that's what happened. And that kind of didn't work out. And it was like, all right, you know, my mom's like, we have the space. Like, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it on your own, or I'm selling the building. Okay, let's go. And, you know, just trying to be teachable and learning. I've always been a type of person that regardless of what I put my mind to, like, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm never going to like do it halfway. If I'm going to commit to it, I want to do it correctly. And, you know, even with Univision, I mean, people always act like it's something that people do just for the money. And I'm like, we're so far beyond that, because we're technically open 24/7. We're licensed to be open 24/7. And I could be open 3 shifts and have a TV up and keep the kids happy and safe. But what is that going to do for them? You know, like, I truly in my heart, like, know that the future of Lancaster City, Lancaster County, like Pennsylvania, is in my classroom. Why wouldn't I want to do more when I have the opportunity? Like, they'll never get these years back. And so when I realized that, I think it kind of changed the whole perspective of how I looked at childcare and, you know, wanting for these kids what I would want for my own kids, if I had any. And I tell people, be intentional with your prayers, because I prayed for kids. I never prayed to be a mother. And look, like, almost
you have plenty now.
Yes, going into like 164 in the near future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So be very intentional with your prayers.
Yeah. And there's something special about your specific center where it's a Spanish immersion center. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So after high school, I moved to New York. And then I lived in New York for a few years, kind of did some things in the music business and entertainment business, and I moved to Atlanta. And this is like early 2000. And Atlanta was predominantly Black. But I was seeing these Spanish immersion schools, and I'm like, I thought that was kind of, you know, different for that to be in these predominantly, you know, Black communities. But then it was like, why not? Why aren't they here? Like, who else or how else are these kids going to learn? So when I came back home, I moved back home. My grandmother got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And then my mom got really sick trying to maintain her life and her job and her marriage and still take care of my grandmother. So I knew I had to step up. So I moved back to Lancaster. I never thought I was ever going to move back. But, you know, my family is the most important thing to me. So I'm like, I had to step up. And when I came back, you know, we had the building, and like I said, it was an apartment, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? And then we decided childcare. I was like, wait a minute, I remembered, like, let's do Spanish immersion. And even then, I didn't think it would be what it is today. You know, my mom's been a realtor 25 plus years. Most of her clients are first-time home buyers that are coming from Spanish-speaking countries and, you know, trying to start their dream. And I would see their kids that are coming with them to see houses and didn't know any English, and they were starting to be behind in school because they're at home with their grandparents or parents, and then they start kindergarten, and now they don't even know English, and they're behind. So I honestly thought Univision was going to be that transition for these kids to be able to learn English before they started school. I never thought it would be to teach Spanish. And God had different plans. And I mean, it completely transformed. Most of my students now are all, even if they are, you know, Hispanic, their parents are still English speakers. And now to kind of see how much it's changed, December will be 10 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. 10
That's
years.
A big deal.
So to see how much it's changed, I'm starting to get students from like Asian students and Ethiopian, African students where Spanish is their third language. You know, they have their home language, English, and then Spanish, and see how much they're picking it up. So we were kind of always, you know, playing and in the water and kind of figuring it out because there's no set curriculum for infants and toddlers in Spanish. And so to see how their brain just absorbs it and picks it up so quickly, it's like, okay, we really need to put our foot on the gas. Like we've been kind of like, you know, playing around, like not knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work, but realizing like if we just give it to them and, you know, it's just organic and our teachers are speaking it 24/7 and they're going to get it and they're going to get it quickly. And hopefully that, you know, it's something that stays with them. You know, I always say I don't want to my mom is always saying, don't put more on your plate. But, you know, my heart of hearts, like I see in the future, like my 10-year plan would probably be to do a school because Lancaster City doesn't have their Spanish immersion school anymore. And to see my students now starting to graduate out and they're forgetting it, it's like, what else can we do? So we'll start small. We'll do like our summer program and bring them back for the summer maybe some evening stuff now that we have the new center. But as much as I say, when people say, what's next? And I'm like, oh, we have this new one opening and we have another one coming. And I would love to be like, that's it. God is like, I'm not done with it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about the expansion plans that are coming up.
Again, be very specific and particular in your prayers. When I did the pitch in 2019.
Yeah. It was 2019.
2019.
Time flies.
Yes. Yes. I said in that pitch, because you guys had asked, what the future of Una Vision looked like. And I said then, I had my center on King Street that was 14 kids. I said my next one I wanted to do would be for 50 kids in the city. And then I wanted to do another one for about 100 kids. And I said probably outside the city, because I never imagined, having a standalone building with parking and a playground in the city. And I found a standalone building with parking and a playground in the city. We actually went into contract for that January 2023. But God was like, we're not ready for that just yet. I'm going to give you the space and show you the vision. But remember, we have to, build. And so now we just finished construction on a 50 student center. We just did final inspections yesterday. So hoping to be open end of May, early June. So that is located on First Street. So that'll be the next one coming. That'll be 50 kids. And then once we get that situated, we'll turn around and do the second location, which is literally right around the corner. And that'll be for 100 kids.
Wow.
And then I'm done for a while, for a little while.
That's what you say now, but
yeah,
I don't know if I believe that.
I say now, but God's plans are greater than mine. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. What are some, you've gone through quite the journey through this construction process and, the expansion or expanding your vision. Yeah. What are some of the lessons that you've learned through this process?
Definitely looking for the opportunities and the obstacles. It is not ever going to be easy, but believing in yourself, being teachable, asking questions, praying that God surrounds me with, people that see the vision and believe in the vision and can help Una Vision. And also just having that faith, like if he's given you this vision, that he will help bring it to fruition. It's, again, not going to be easy. My mom always says, if it's easy, everybody's going to do it. But I think it's not even just the journey. Like, it's learning to appreciate the journey, because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Like doing this last center and having to go through construction. I mean, even the grant paperwork that I got that ARPA grant from the city and having to navigate that. They're all learning moments, and it's always for something else and something bigger. And, now I'll take everything that I've learned in this project with the construction to the next center and the next, whatever it is, but it's just, being patient and trying to just learn and appreciate the still moments, and doing as much as you can until God feels like you're ready, or until the project is ready, or whatever it is. But that's kind of super been hard for me, because like I said, our first center, we went under contract January 2023. This one we went in May 2024, and I'm like, oh, this building only needs a bathroom. Now we're almost at a year, and you just don't know what you don't know. I mean, construction alone is a different beast, trying to find people that you trust and having a good, solid team, people that are reputable and do quality work. Like, all of those things are really hard.
Yeah.
But it's just like, doing what you can in those moments. And like I said, learning to appreciate and look for the opportunity and the obstacles, because it's not going to be easy, but it would be so well, worth it in the end. Like both of our spaces, we could have put some paint on the wall, and that would have been it. The big space was a daycare previously. That would have been so easy, just to put some lipstick on a pig and open. But it wasn't conducive to what these kids deserve. Like they, especially in Lancaster City, like they deserve a beautiful, modern, up-to-date space where they can come and, there's natural light, and that they can just learn and be happy. And Yeah. So just wanting more for them, and not just thinking about, the money will come. And that's hard to say in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
But just having that faith that God's always going to make a way. Don't ever do it because of you can, as much as you want to, like you can't, like you have to have that passion or that purpose or something greater, than yourself. And I think that when you realize that the purpose that God has on your life is bigger than you, he will use you in a mighty way.
Yeah.
Like he is going to, and it's like things beyond my wildest dreams. Like I said, I've never wasn't that little girl like I want to go to, be a teacher or educate when I grow up. And I still battle with that. Just my backstory. I only have a high school, education. So, I mean, even early on, like it was always hard for me to talk about being an educator when I didn't have an education. But, here we are. I think, the pitch also like taught me a lot. And when I had people like from DHS and STARS that are like the people that kind of, I guess, govern our system, our quality control and all of that. And they're just like, she told me, she's like, there have been people that have been in childcare for 25, plus years and have not done what you've done in the time you've done it. There are people with master's degrees, in childhood education and have not done what you've done. So I had to learn to give myself grace and not discount what I have done. Even though I started with 14 kids, I needed to start small and learn all of that, not just the business, but how to interact with these kids and, finding the right support staff. Like I'm so grateful, for my teachers and my staff. Like I always say, you can't teach passion and patience.
Yeah.
You can teach how to do lesson plans and you can teach, how to do activities, but you can't teach those things. So it's like I always, will pray before I interview people and ask God to bring those that have the same vision and the same morals and values that we can, as a team and a village, pour into these kids. And I've been extremely blessed. I have a great support staff. I am definitely looking forward to hiring more. And even like the little things, like most of my staff are, Hispanic educators from other countries who normally wouldn't be able to get jobs as teachers here because they don't know English. But to, also be able to say, like 95% of my staff are, Hispanic women. So it's like there's just so many little things in all of, like in this story that just, sometimes you just sit back and be like, thank you, God.
Yeah. You're not only providing value to the students, but you're providing opportunity for your team that probably wouldn't get it elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you overcome some of, kind of what I was hearing, a little bit of imposter syndrome that sometimes starts to, peak up, and that happens with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? It's like, do I deserve to be in this space or should I be in this space? How did you overcome some of that feeling?
The people that you surround yourself with, one of my teachers, I call her my spiritual advisor. She used to be a chaplain. And now she's working with me. So I'll walk in sometimes and like the world is just so heavy and the stress is so much, and I'll just literally just hug her and I'm just like, please pray for me. My mom, I can't give her enough credit because she's such a realist, and she's like, all right, I'll give you 5 minutes to cry and let it all out, and then we got to get back to work. You can't live in that space because it happens, and you can choose to dwell on it and feel sorry for yourself or talk yourself out of it, pray your way out of it, like whatever you have to do. And I feel like definitely finding your why. And your why can always change. Like my why was always about pouring into these students because they are the future generation. And then it kind of, I will always have that, you being able to make an impact on these kids at this age. But now I feel like, it's shifted a little bit. Like my why is now recognizing all of the accomplishments that my mother and sacrifices that my mother made for me. So now it's like, what can I do and how can I do this to now be able to give that back, to her? She jokes and she's like, I had the first half, the second half is all you, and yeah, I embrace that. Like I understand that responsibility. You know, as Latinos, we are taught that we're supposed to take care of our elders. And unfortunately, you know, the world is changing, that's not as big as it once upon a time. But, you know, that's how I was raised, and I'm looking forward to it. You know, I look at it as God has given me a blessing to kind of take care of his angel. And but yeah, always just kind of remembering your why, because there's going to be days that are going to be hard. There's going to be days where you feel like giving up and you don't want to do this, or you feel like you can't. But when you can always just go back and think about your why and remember that, and obviously praying. Like, I mean, the world gets noisy. I have even changed like the music that I listen to, and I'll listen to like gospel music while I'm in the car, and it'll be funny because I'm in tears, like just crying, like, God, thank you for choosing me, for blessing me, for loving me, for protecting me. And it becomes overwhelming. It becomes so overwhelming, but it's just like, you know, it is what it is. You can't change it. I mean, you're on the train. This is what you asked for. You know, you can't get off. We're not at the destination yet.
Yeah.
So
as long as I've known you, especially I remember times practicing for the Great Social Enterprise pitch, and even through your journey through this construction project, and every time we have conversations, I'm always like, wow, you're going through a tough moment, but you always have this sense of gratitude of being able to do it, as if it's a privilege to actually be able to navigate these waters sometimes.
It is definitely a privilege. It is a privilege. It's an honor. It is a blessing, because, I mean, the world is changing and things are so hard, and the world is like becoming like so cruel. But I feel blessed. Like I know I'm blessed, and it's not easy. I always say, you know, becoming an entrepreneur is learning to swim while drowning. But I was not scared to get in that water because I knew God was my life preserver. And everybody doesn't always go into it with that mindset, but it's like, you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that there's something that gave you that vision, that idea, and it's not going to fail. And it, like I said, it hasn't been easy. Like, I mean, when we started, I mean, I jacked up my credit, you know, like even now it's like, but God continues to make a way. And it's like, all right, okay, Lord, we need a playground. I'm trusting you. Like I'm, you know, and holding him accountable to his promises. And one thing in 2025 I said I wanted to do is like get better in my Bible, because I know like what God has done for me, and I know the blessings, but I'm like, I want to be able to like recite the verses and be like, God, you know, you promised in this verse, you know, and hold him accountable, because that's what he said. Yeah. You know, he says, I have plans to prosper you. Lord, I'm waiting on your you know, but it will happen. I mean, it's not, I mean, and he says, I know the plans I have for you, not the plans you have for yourself. Yeah. And I think when people can kind of get out of that mindset, you know, this is not something I wanted for myself. I never, ever dreamed it, envisioned, thought about it. But when my mama and my grandmama were praying over my life and praying for something for me, this is what God's plans were. So it's like, all right, here we are. You know, it's never going to be easy. And every time I think something, you know, like you said, I mean, it's always been a hard step, but it's just like, just make the step. Because if you don't, you don't know what can happen. Yeah. You know, I truly believe that God will redeem my decisions if I make a wrong choice, or if I, you know, take a wrong step. And I think trusting that as well. But yeah, I mean, it has not been easy. But like I said, learning to find the opportunities in the obstacles, learning to enjoy the journey, because if you're just so busy going and not looking around and seeing the blessings, you know, you can't appreciate them. You're always going to be in your head. You're always going to be stressed. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's a part of it, and I embrace it. I don't like it, but it's a part of it. This is what I prayed for.
I love that. Your faith is very important to you. Yeah. And where does that come from? It's definitely given you a sense of fearlessness, I think, in your journey. Where does that come from?
Definitely my mother and my grandmother. Definitely my mother and my grandmother. I mean, I went to like Catholic school when I was little, and I still don't think that I had that same just faith. But it's just, I mean, what else is there? I always feel like we did a women in business thing for assets, and it was like me, Chelsea Christmas, and Whitney Lumpton. And I thought that was like the perfect panel because like Chelsea came from a place of passion. Whitney, her business was from a place of like education, and that's what she learned and that's what she knew. And then, I obviously came from a place of purpose, and to kind of see how the walks are different and so similar. At the end of the day, they're all going to get you there. It's just which one are you willing to take, or which one do you want to take? And I mean, my purpose has now become my passion, and now I have the education and things to support it. But yeah, I mean, I see what my mother accomplished as a single mother because of her faith. I see what my grandparents accomplished being immigrants here because of their faith. Like, why not? Yeah.
I love that. This episode is built by Edwards Business Systems. EBS is a family-owned company that has been providing superior office technology and services for over 70 years, specializing in multifunction printers, wide format and industrial print solutions, as well as managed IT and other print programs. With a focus on streamlining business processes, EBS ensures that clients have the technology and support they need to thrive in today's competitive environment. Entrepreneurship is, it's very popular these days. A lot of folks want to go out there and, for good reason, have an idea or want to start their dreams. What's some advice that you would give to someone that's just starting on this journey?
Definitely finding your why, because it's not an easy journey. And if you don't have something that's going to continuously motivate you to keep going, you're probably going to stop before you finish. So definitely that, being teachable. You don't know it all, regardless of how much you know. Surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you, wealthier than you, whatever it is, because you can always learn from them. And just getting out there, like, I think I was born in Texas, but I've been here since I was 3. And we were always taught, mind your business, stay to yourself, keep your head down. But once I won the pitch and to see how supportive the community was, it's like, get out there, network, because Lancaster is very, very supportive. But if they don't know you and they don't know what your business is, how can they support you? So that was kind of different for me because I wasn't used to it. I was always used to keeping to myself and trying to figure it out between me and my mom. And so that has definitely been, huge, for me. But definitely like your village and your community, like, just, get out there. And now with social media, like, things are so easy, so much easier. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wish, it's a blessing and a curse. You definitely have to, pick your battles. And when social media first came out, it was kind of like I was, watching gossip and following celebrities. And now it's like completely changed. And it's like, if you're not like a teacher or an educator or a motivator or, talking about God, like, then I just don't have time for it. But I think we all kind of go through that. Like, I just want to always be motivated, and the world gets noisy. So it's like being able to, like following people that like post Bible verses every day. Okay, I'm not reading, TMZ. I'm reading Bible verses. I'm praying every day, all day, even subconsciously, just because that's what I've chose to expose myself to. So it's like, whatever you need to do to fill your mind with things that are engaging and learning, and not just, entertainment, but things that you can really learn from. It'll be a lot, a lot easier. And whatever your spiritual, I guess, journey is, or whoever it is that you pray to, that, like, definitely getting in tune, with that, because you can't do this alone.
Yeah. Think about, like, folks think about your diet and what you're consuming, but it also matters, like, what you're consuming mentally, like just through social media, things you're reading, people that you're around, like that has a tendency to affect how you show up in this world and, how you navigate things. So, So let's go back, take a little trip down memory lane.
Okay.
The Great Social Enterprise Pitch.
Yes.
It's 2019.
Yeah.
You're selected for the top 5. How are you feeling?
Nervous. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, I'm old school. I'm a lot older. So I'd never done public speaking before. So that alone, I mean, I got nervous to do this. I had never done like a PowerPoint before. So having to learn to do that. And then even speaking on the business, like I was conflicted because it was a business pitch. But of course, mine came from a place of purpose. So I couldn't do it without talking about God and what he's done for me and how he's moved for me in my life. And I was getting things in my head, and it was just like, you're in a business pitch competition. Talk about that. Talk about the numbers. That's enough. But I can't talk about my journey without talking about this and everything that God has done. Like, even now, like, saying that it's been almost 10 years, one, it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I'm like, oh, I only have 14. It's not a huge, it's not a big deal. And then learning and realizing this, but you have to start somewhere. How do you prepare for 50? How do you prepare for 100 if you don't start somewhere? So I definitely learned a lot from the pitch. The biggest thing was probably learning to take my business from a hustle to a business, because all I knew was hustle. And that was okay to make it, but that is not ever okay to get to the next level. And, I'm so grateful to you. I'm so grateful to Assets in the Pitch, because that did teach me a lot about networking. It taught me a lot about, like I said, the business of any business. We thought we were doing everything right, like what we were supposed to do, but there were a lot of things, even just learning to hone into my mission and my vision statement. I didn't have that. Like, I didn't know that was needed. But, kind of all of those things. So it's definitely, I even now I encourage entrepreneurs like to get into the idea incubator, because had I learned some of that stuff earlier, I know it would have made a difference. I might not have been ready to receive it then, so I'm not mad in my timetable. But it would have, gave me some lessons to help me along the way.
Yeah. And I still remember being backstage of that night. And for those of you who don't know, Champagne won first place of the competition. But you were a nervous wreck. And I was like, I don't know if Champagne's going to go out there.
I didn't know if I was going to go out there, Jamie. Like, I mean, I don't even know if you remember, like, up until literally we had to submit the final like slides and everything that I couldn't change it. Yeah. Then it was like, okay, I mean, I was reading my cards through the whole competition because I couldn't remember it. I was so nervous. I was in my own head. And even that day, like, I literally was like so close to having a panic attack, an anxiety attack. And I'm like, they're going to have to call the ambulance. Like, I've never been in my head so bad. But the crazy thing is, had nothing to do with the pitch. It was all, for me, it was a spiritual battle, because the devil kept telling me, you're not good enough. Like, I'm going up against, Whitney and her husband. And I mean, they have a solid business, Selena, who was she was an artist, and they were all great businesses. I can't remember the one guy's name, but he spoke like Obama. Like, they were great speakers. Yeah. They were used to being in front of people, and that's what I lacked. And so, of course, I got in my head, and it was like, you're not good enough, or you can't do this, or nobody wants to hear about God in a business pitch competition. And I had to really, get in my head and talk to God and be like, all right, I know you have me here for a reason. And be upfront. If I lose, please don't never ask me to do anything like this again, because this is going to destroy me. But I'm trusting that you have me here at this, because I had been asked to do, to do the idea incubator for a few years and didn't. So I'm like, you have me here for this reason and this year for a reason. I'm giving it to you. I'm not even giving it to myself. Like, I'm giving it to you. I'm trusting you, and we're going to do this. And that's it.
And you knocked it out the park.
I don't even feel like I knocked it out because I was still so nervous. Like if you watch the video, like I'm swaying back and forth and I'm like, if I stand on both my knees will buckle. And I don't know if you even remember when I came off stage, I buckled and I fell to the ground once I came off stage.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I remember that.
Yes, because my knees could not hold me. I was just so nervous. But I mean, it was good because I had a lot of people there that were supporting me. So that definitely helped. I mean, they clapped a lot. I could hear them. So that helped with the nerves. But it's just, I mean, it was an experience. I'm glad I did it. Do I ever want to do it again? I hope not. I'm not going to say, no. But yeah, that's just not something I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. Well, challenges are part of the journey.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, one of a major challenge that we all went through, but I think you probably had to navigate it a little bit differently being in the childcare business was COVID, the pandemic. How did you navigate that being in the childcare business?
So that was hard because originally we had applied for an exemption license that would allow us to stay open. But then that turned into if we had any open spaces, we had to give them to like emergency workers, children so that they could work. But for my center, that wouldn't work because we had a set curriculum and we were teaching in Spanish. So we did, I did agree to just shut down. I believe we were shut down for almost 3 months, but we were still doing things on Zoom, still having the teachers doing lessons and stuff for the kids, even at 2 and 3 years old, whether it was just going over the songs that they knew with, colors and numbers and shapes or whatever. I also prepared, I called them blessing baskets because it was right before Easter with different school supplies, art supplies, so that they could still do work. And we were sending home ideas, for parents to do with the kids, even stuff as simple as like scavenger hunts, so that we could help parents keep these kids engaged without being on TVs or iPads and things like that. And then just, praying over the finances of it. I mean, I applied, I learned to become a grant writer. In that time, I applied to every and all grants that I could come across. I mean, I joke and I said, I even applied for the Fashion Nova Cardi B, grant. It's just because we didn't know what's going to happen. And then again, with having those great relationships, having assets, on my side. Anytime something would come up, they were sending it to me, before it went out, like, hey, did you see this? Even though it came as an email, they were touching base personally. Same thing with my banker. Like I'm, again, as a business owner, make connections with the people you bank with, because that was a huge help when PPP came out. They were calling me like, what can we help you with? My account in the same way. So that's honestly how we were able, to kind of make it through that. So it was a difficult time. Thankfully, it was not so bad. But then we seen the difference in the kids. I think that was probably the worst part. It wasn't even shutting down. It was a difference in these kids being home and thinking they were on vacation. Now they got to come to school and be away from mommy and daddy. And that was, I think, the hardest part. And then we tried to even, take some of our older kids that were graduating out and were going to school and have them, do schooling from our center. Because then at least we still had teachers there to support them. So just kind of changing to whatever the Univision as a center needs from me. You always have to, you can't just be like, oh, this is what we do. I mean, you always have to be able to pivot as well.
Yeah. The name Univision, where does that come from?
Yeah. My mom is the one that actually came up with it. We hyphenated it purposely because we didn't want Una Vision, the cable conglomerate, to come after us. And then I won the pitch, and it was on the in the paper and, internet. And they came after me. So we obviously thought that they wouldn't because of that. We did end up working something out with them, thankfully, to the pitch and the legal services. So I still have Uni Vision as my LLC, but my DBA now is Una Vision. So it's still one vision. That's always kind of been the purpose behind it, what we want for our students, what we want for our community, what we want for ourselves. It's just literally like one vision. So, yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about your younger self, 13, 14-year-old Champagne, what would you go back and tell her? What advice would you give her?
I wouldn't change anything about my journey. I'll be 48 in 2 weeks. And so a part of me, thinks like if I would have learned and grasped this earlier, it would have been a lot easier. But I don't think my younger self would have been able to receive it. She wasn't ready to receive it. Like her path was so different. But it brought me full circle back here, so I'm not mad at it. But I don't think that if I did anything differently earlier, I would have been able to receive what's happening now. So I probably, because I mean, you always say, oh, do better in school, but I don't know if that would have helped me because I'm doing great. Like I'm not doing great. Yeah, I am doing great. I'm
doing great.
Absolutely.
You can own that.
Like I don't know what else would have changed. Like I love my journey. Like I for a point was conflicted of when I lived in New York and I lived in Atlanta. I was around and worked with like a lot of different celebrities and athletes, and I always thought that was going to be my business, something in that realm. And I would ask God, okay, well, you had me in those circles that for me at the time was easy. Like I could easily meet. It's like, it wasn't hard. I was always in the right places, had great relationships, but I would, again, get in my head like, well, how cool are we? Like, can I ask for this? And I never asked for anything, but it's like, what were the relationships for? And then as Univision, began to grow, even like doing the extra give and reaching out, for donations, it kind of really solidified like my time in that season was exactly what it was supposed to be. And now I have, forged these great relationships that if there's something that I need, I'm not afraid to ask. But I don't think that I would have been able to appreciate what I have now if I would have had it earlier or had it differently. So I just probably would have told her, just enjoy the ride. Like it all makes sense. It'll all come together. Just,
enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the
Love
ride.
that. Yeah. So what's the next season look like for you?
Whew. No. I'm still on the ride. I'm still on the ride. I mean, like I said, we just finished up the second center on First Street. Looking forward to opening that in the very near future.
And that's going to have 50 students?
That'll have 50, yeah.
Awesome.
So that's going to be opened as a preschool. And then on King Street, we'll do a school age and bring back some of our older students. We're putting that program together now for the summer because we want to introduce things like financial literacy. Like at what age do you start teaching that? So putting together like that curriculum and helping them, do they want to be entrepreneurs? Do they want to start their own business? Like let's kind of start trying to work out the kinks now. At what age do you teach them that? Like if not, they're going to be playing all summer, also trying to see, whatever grade they're going into next, having those conversations with their teachers now, like what can we start working on so that we can make sure that they're ready. So it's not a traditional, summer school, but giving them that experience. And then King Street will turn into a nursery while we finish the big building. And then we'll transition infants and toddlers to First Street, preschool to the one on Southwest end. And then the goal for King Street would be to use that as a rooming house and bring teachers from like Puerto Rico that can, work here, give them a livable wage, somewhere to live, and the opportunity, to go back and forth or help their families. I know a great realtor in my mom if they want to, stay here and build their life here. So, and then like I said, I mean, God has it on my heart to do a school, maybe like kindergarten to 5th grade so that my kids don't forget their Spanish. But just like I said, enjoying the ride and seeing what happens next.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're not done.
No, no, not yet.
Awesome.
I mean, I wish that probably the only thing I wish that like I would have started earlier is because like when I was younger, I used to I am such a procrastinator, and I would thrive under that stress. Like that's when the best me would come out. Now I'm like pushing 50 and that stress, it affects you differently. Like I'm sick, like my hair is falling out, like I'm gaining weight. So I think that trying to learn to still take care of me and that self-care, because I pour into, others so much. But yeah, when you're younger, you think 48, 50 is old. And I'm just like, I'm just getting started. So just that, excited for the future, not just for me, for my students and for Univision and kind of all of those great things.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Jamie, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, thank you. You have been around, even before your position in assets, and kind of have seen, the growth of Univision. So thank you for always supporting and pouring into me and being available for me when I had questions or concerns, and, inviting me to be on the assets board. I've learned so much from that as well. Nonprofit Univision Foundation coming soon.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Built by Us. Champagne reminded us today that innovation doesn't always come from tech or trends. Sometimes it comes from love, language, and listening closely to the voices around us. If this episode inspired you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave us a review. I'm Jamie Arroyo. Until next time, keep building what matters.
This is the Built by Us podcast, brought to you by Assets. Visit us at assetspa.org to learn more about the products and services we provide, and you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube.